Every morning, I waited by the door, and one day he didn't come back. They tell me 12 years have passed since that day. 12 years of waiting outside these hospital doors. 12 years of watching people come and go, of seasons changing, of the world moving forward while I stayed still. But time doesn't mean the same thing to me as it does to you. To me, it's just been one long day, one long wait, one unbroken promise that I will be here when he needs me. My name is Canelo. At least that's what the people of Cádiz started calling me. Before that, I didn't really have a name, just boy or amigo, or sometimes nothing at all. Just the sound of his whistle, sharp and clear, cutting through the noise of the city streets. That whistle was my name. That whistle meant, come home. I don't remember much about my early life. I was born somewhere in the streets of this ancient Andalusian city, where the buildings are white as bone and the Mediterranean sun paints everything in shades of gold and amber. My mother was a stray. I suppose that made me one too. Life on the streets teaches you things quickly. Where to find food, which humans to avoid, which alleys are safe to sleep in, how to read danger in the set of someone's shoulders or the tone of their voice. You learn to be invisible, to survive in the spaces between people's awareness. But then I met him. I was maybe 6 months old, skinny, scared, hiding behind a dumpster near the fish market trying to steal scraps. He was walking home from somewhere, carrying a bag of groceries. He was old even then, maybe in his 70s. Gray hair, weathered face, hands that shook slightly when he moved. He saw me. Most people looked through me, but he saw me, really saw me. Hola, pequeño, he said softly. Little one. I pressed myself further into the shadows. In my experience, humans who noticed you were usually angry about it. But he didn't yell. He didn't throw anything. He just knelt down, slowly, his old knees creaking, and placed a piece of bread on the ground between us. Then he backed away and waited. I was so hungry. The bread smelled like heaven. But I'd learned not to trust easily. He sat there for maybe 20 minutes, just sitting, waiting, not pushing, not demanding, just offering. Finally, hunger won. I crept forward, grabbed the bread, and retreated to a safe distance to eat it. He smiled. Bueno, good boy. The next day he was there again. Same time, same place. Another piece of bread. This time he stayed a little closer. This happened every day for 2 weeks. Slowly, I learned to trust him. Learned that his presence meant safety, not danger. Learned that his voice was gentle, his movements careful, his intentions pure. Then one day, instead of bread, he brought a collar. Soft leather. Simple. What do you say? He asked. Want to come home with me? I didn't understand the words, but I understood the invitation, and somehow, impossibly, I said yes. His apartment was small. 1 bedroom on the 3rd floor of an old building near the port. You could hear the seagulls crying and smell the salt air through the open windows. It was clean, but spare. An old man's home. Functional. Quiet. He made me a bed from an old blanket in the corner of the living room. He filled a bowl with water and another with food. Real food. Not scraps or garbage, but actual dog food he'd bought specifically for me. That first night I couldn't sleep. I was inside, warm, safe, fed. It felt wrong somehow. Too good to be real, too good to last. Around midnight I heard him get up. He walked into the living room and found me still awake, staring at the door. Can't sleep either? He said softly. He lowered himself onto the floor next to me with a grunt. Me neither. Too quiet sometimes, this place. He reached out slowly and rested his hand on my head. I tensed, but didn't pull away. "You're safe now," he whispered. "I promise. You're safe." And somehow, I believed him. I closed my eyes and slept. Really slept, for the first time in my life. The days that followed fell into a rhythm, a beautiful, simple rhythm that made me understand what home meant. Every morning, he would wake up early. I would hear him moving around the kitchen, making coffee. The smell would fill the apartment, bitter and rich. He would turn on the radio, low, always the same station. Spanish guitar and old songs about love and loss. He would sit at his small table by the window and drink his coffee slowly, looking out at the street below. Sometimes he would talk to me about the weather, about his plans for the day, about nothing in particular. Then we would go for our morning walk. This was my favorite time. We would descend the narrow stairs and step out into the Cádiz morning. The air was always different, sometimes crisp and cool, sometimes already warm with the promise of heat to come. The city would be waking up, shop owners opening their doors, street cleaners with their brooms and water trucks, old women in black dresses heading to morning mass. We had a route, always the same route. Down our street, left at the corner through the small plaza with the fountain where pigeons gathered, past the bakery where the owner would sometimes give me a scrap of yesterday's bread, down to the waterfront where we would walk along the sea wall. He walked slowly, his gait uneven. Sometimes he would stop to catch his breath, leaning against a wall or sitting on a bench. He never seemed embarrassed by this, never rushed. He moved through the world at his own pace, and I matched mine to his. At the waterfront, he would sit on his favorite bench, the one with the view of the harbor and the old stone fortress across the water. He would watch the boats and the birds. I would sit beside him, my shoulder pressed against his leg, feeling his hand rest on my head. "Beautiful, isn't it?" he would say. "Been looking at this view for 75 years. Never gets old." I didn't know what beautiful meant, but I understood contentment. I understood peace. And sitting there with him, feeling the morning sun warm my fur and the sea breeze cool it again, I felt both. We would stay until he was ready to move. Sometimes 5 minutes, sometimes an hour. It didn't matter. We had nowhere to be, nothing to prove. We were just two beings existing together in a moment of quiet grace. Then we would walk home. He would make himself breakfast. Toast, usually, sometimes an egg. He would always share a piece with me. "Don't tell anyone," he would whisper with a smile as if we were conspirators in some great crime. The rest of the day had its own gentle rhythm. He would read, old books with worn covers and yellowed pages. He would doze in his chair, the book falling open on his chest, his breathing slow and steady. I would lie at his feet, my own eyes closing, the two of us drifting in and out of sleep together. Sometimes neighbors would visit, older people mostly. They would drink coffee and talk about the old days, about people I never knew, about a Cádiz that existed before I was born. I would lie quietly and listen to the rise and fall of their voices, understanding nothing except that my human was happy. In the late afternoon, we would walk again. Different route this time. To the market if we needed food. Through the old quarter with its narrow streets and ancient walls. Past the cathedral with its golden dome gleaming in the sun. People knew him. They would greet him. "Buenas tardes, Don Miguel." That was his name. Miguel. I learned it from hearing others say it. Don Miguel. The Don was respect. He was old enough, kind enough, to have earned that, and people started to know me too. "Hola, perro de Don Miguel." The dog of Don Miguel. That's who I was. Not just a street dog anymore. I belonged to someone. I belonged somewhere. Evenings were quiet. He would make simple dinners. We would eat together, him at his table, me at my bowl. Then he would settle into his chair with the radio playing softly. Classical music in the evenings, always classical. I would lie near his feet and he would reach down occasionally to scratch behind my ears or stroke my head. "Good boy," he would murmur. "Mi amigo." My friend. That word. Friend. I understood it not through definition, but through feeling, through the weight of it, the truth of it. We were friends. Not master and pet, not owner and property. Friends. Two lonely souls who had found each other in the vastness of the world and decided to make that loneliness smaller by sharing it. Some nights he would cry, quietly. I would hear it in his breathing, feel it in the tremor of his hand when he touched me. I never knew why. There was a photograph on his wall. A woman, younger, smiling. Sometimes he would look at it for a long time. Maybe she was the reason for his tears. On those nights, I would press closer to him. Not because I understood grief, but because I understood loneliness. And I understood that sometimes the best thing you can offer someone is just your presence, just the knowledge that they're not alone. This was our life. Simple, repetitive, perfect. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. Seasons changed. Summer heat that made our morning walks shorter. Autumn coolness that brought relief. Winter rains that we would wait out together, sitting by the window, watching water stream down the glass. Spring flowers that filled the plazas with color and scent. Through it all, the rhythm remained. The morning walk, the shared breakfast, the quiet afternoons, the evening calm, the sense of belonging. I'd never been happier, never felt more complete. This old man and this small apartment and this ancient city, they had become my entire world. And that world was enough, more than enough. But I was starting to notice things, small things, changes. Don Miguel was getting slower. His breathing was harder after even short walks. He would sit more frequently, rest more often. His hands shook worse than before. Some mornings he would struggle to get out of bed. I would hear him groan with pain as his joints protested. He would sit on the edge of the mattress for long minutes, gathering strength before standing. He started going to the doctor more often. I couldn't go inside with him, so I would wait outside the clinic watching the door, counting the minutes until he emerged. He always looked tired after those visits, worried. One night I woke to find him sitting up in bed, hand pressed to his chest, breathing hard. I went to him, whining softly, pressing my nose against his hand. "It's okay, boy," he whispered. But his voice was strained, scared, just getting old. Happens to all of us. But it wasn't okay. I could sense it. Something was wrong. Something was changing, and I was powerless to stop it. Then came the day that split my life in two. The day that everything ended and nothing would ever be the same again. It was a Tuesday morning in December. I remember because the city had started putting up Christmas lights. Don Miguel woke up, but he moved differently. Slower, more careful. His face was pale and drawn. He got dressed with difficulty, made his coffee but barely drank it. When it was time for our morning walk, he looked at me sadly. "Not today, amigo. I'm not feeling well. I need to go to the hospital." Hospital. I knew that word. It meant the place with the white walls and antiseptic smell where he went for his appointments. But he'd never needed to go there in the morning before. Never looked this worried before. He put on his coat, picked up his keys, and headed for the door. I followed, of course. I always followed. "No, boy. You stay here. I'll be back soon." But I couldn't stay. Something in me, instinct or intuition or just love, refused to let him go alone. When he opened the door, I slipped out before he could stop me. Stubborn dog, he muttered, but I could hear the affection in his voice, the resignation. He was too tired to argue. We walked to the hospital together. It was farther than our usual routes. By the time we arrived, Don Miguel was breathing hard, leaning heavily against a wall every few steps. The hospital was a large modern building that seemed out of place in the old city, all glass and concrete where everything else was stone and history. The doors were automatic, sliding open with a pneumatic hiss. Don Miguel went inside. I tried to follow, but a security guard stopped me. "No, Pero. Dogs can't come in." Don Miguel turned back. He knelt down with difficulty and took my face in both hands. His eyes were tired, scared, but also kind. Always kind. "Wait here," he said softly. "I'll be back soon, just wait here for me." He scratched behind my ears one more time. Then he stood and walked through those sliding doors. They closed behind him with a final whisper of air. I sat down outside those doors, and I waited. An hour passed, then 2. People came and went. Some glanced at me. Most didn't. I didn't move. He'd told me to wait. So I waited. The sun moved across the sky. Morning became afternoon. My stomach growled. I was thirsty, but I didn't leave. Couldn't leave. What if he came out and I wasn't here? What if he needed me and I was gone? Evening came. The security guard's shift changed. The new guard looked at me with more sympathy. "Still here, Pero. Your owner must have been admitted. You should go home." But I didn't know how to go home without him. Home was wherever he was. Night fell. The temperature dropped. I curled up tighter against the cold, my eyes never leaving those doors. He would come back. He had to come back. He always came back. The next morning, the first security guard returned. He looked surprised to see me still there. "Dios mío, you waited all night?" He brought me water in a plastic container. I drank gratefully but didn't move from my spot. Days passed. I learned to recognize the rhythms of the hospital, the shift changes, the visiting hours, the quiet of night, the bustle of morning. People started to notice me. A nurse named Carmen began bringing me food. "Poor thing," she would murmur, setting down a bowl of scraps. "Still waiting?" I was always waiting. A week went by, then 2. The hospital staff tried to move me, to shoo me away, but I would only circle back and return to my spot outside those doors. I didn't understand what was happening. In my mind, Don Miguel was inside, sick but recovering. Any moment now, those doors would slide open and he would step out. He would kneel down and scratch behind my ears and say, "Good boy, thank you for waiting." Any moment now. But the moment never came. What I didn't know, what I couldn't know, was that Don Miguel had died 3 days after being admitted. Quietly, in his sleep, his old heart finally giving up the struggle. I didn't know that the nurses had talked about me in his final days, that he had asked about mi Pero, even in his delirium. That with his last clear words he had said, "Take care of my friend." I didn't know that they had tried to find me a new home, but I had already chosen mine. Right here, outside these doors. All I knew was that I had been told to wait, and so I waited. Weeks became months. The winter was cold that year. Rain fell frequently, turning the ground to mud, soaking through my fur. I shivered through the nights, but I didn't leave. The hospital staff set up a small shelter for me. Cardboard and plastic sheeting. It kept off the worst of the rain. Carmen continued to bring me food daily. The security guards made sure no one bothered me. "He's been here 2 months now," I heard one say to another. "Never seen loyalty like that." People started to come specifically to see me. "That's the dog," they would whisper, "the one waiting for his owner." But they didn't understand. I wasn't waiting because I was loyal. I was waiting because I loved him, because he had saved me from the streets and given me a home and shown me kindness when I had known nothing but hardship. I was waiting because that's what you do when someone matters. You don't give up. You don't abandon hope. You wait. Spring came, the rain stopped, flowers bloomed in the hospital gardens, people wore lighter clothes. Life renewed itself all around me, but I remained, waiting. A year passed. A local newspaper ran a story about me. The faithful dog of Cádiz, they called me. The article included a photo. Me lying outside the hospital doors, eyes fixed on the entrance. The story spread. More people came. Some brought food. Others just wanted to take pictures. I paid them little attention. They weren't him. Someone started calling me Canelo. The name caught on. Soon, everyone knew it. Canelo, the dog who waits. But I didn't care about names or fame or attention. I cared about the promise I'd made, the promise to wait. 2 years. My fur, once a healthy brown, was becoming dull and matted despite Carmen's efforts to brush me. My ribs showed through my sides even though I was fed regularly. I was losing weight, losing strength. But I couldn't leave. Wouldn't leave. The hospital administration held a meeting about me. Some wanted me removed. It's not sanitary, they argued. It's not appropriate. But others defended me. He's not hurting anyone. Let him stay. In the end, I stayed. The hospital even made it official. They built me a proper shelter, a small wooden doghouse with my name painted on the side. Canelo. The local government declared me a symbol of the city. They put my picture in tourist brochures. Come to Cádiz, they said. See the faithful dog. But symbols don't feel. They don't hurt. They don't wake up every morning hoping today will be the day. I was not a symbol. I was just a dog who missed his friend. 3 years, 4 years, 5. I was getting old. My joints ached. My eyes were clouding. My hearing was fading. Children would come and pet me gently. Is he sad? They would ask their parents. No, mijo, he's loyal. He's waiting for someone he loves. But they were wrong. I was both, loyal and sad. They weren't mutually exclusive. 6 years, 7, 8. I barely remembered what Don Miguel looked like anymore. The details had faded. But I remembered how he felt, the gentleness of his touch, the kindness in his voice, the safety of his presence. I remembered love. And that was enough to keep me here. 9 years, 10, 11. I was ancient now by dog standards, barely able to stand some days. Carmen would cry when she fed me. Oh, Canelo, she would whisper. Why won't you let go? But letting go wasn't an option. This was who I was now. The dog who waits, the dog who remembers, the dog who refuses to break his promise. Then came year 12. I woke one morning and I knew. My body knew. My time was ending. I was so tired. Every breath was an effort. Every heartbeat a struggle. Carmen came with my breakfast, but I couldn't eat. She knelt beside me, tears streaming down her face. It's okay, she whispered. You can rest now. You've waited long enough. But had I? Would it ever be long enough? I closed my eyes, and then something strange happened. I smelled him. Not a memory of his scent. Not an echo or a ghost. Him. Coffee and old books and kindness. I opened my eyes, and there he was, standing in front of me, young again, healthy, smiling that smile I remembered. Hola, pequeño, he said softly. I'm sorry I kept you waiting so long. I tried to stand, but my legs wouldn't work anymore. He knelt down beside me just like he used to. His hand rested on my head, warm and real. You waited for me, he said, his voice full of wonder. All this time, You waited. Of course I waited. How could I do anything else? Come on, boy, he said gently. Let's go home. Home. The word filled me with warmth. He helped me to my feet. Suddenly, impossibly, my legs worked again. The pain was gone. I felt young, strong. We walked together through doors that weren't the hospital doors anymore, through light that wasn't quite sunlight, to a place that felt like home even though I'd never been there. Will we walk by the sea? I asked without words. Every morning, he promised, for as long as you want. And together, we did. They found me that afternoon, December 9th, 2002, lying peacefully in my wooden shelter, finally at rest after 12 years of waiting. Carmen wept. The hospital staff stood in silence. The news spread through Cádiz like wildfire. Canelo has died, people said. The faithful dog is gone. They held a funeral for me. Can you imagine? A funeral for a street dog. Hundreds of people came. They brought flowers. They cried. They said I was a hero. But I was never a hero. I was just a dog who loved his human, who made a promise and kept it, who waited because waiting was all I had left to give. The city put up a statue of me. Bronze, life-sized, right outside the hospital where I spent 12 years. It's still there today. People come from all over Spain to see it, to touch it, to remember. They say I'm a symbol of loyalty, of faithfulness, of love that transcends death. Maybe they're right. But here's what I want you to understand. I didn't wait because I was special. I waited because he was special, because he saw me when I was invisible, because he saved me when I was lost, because he loved me when I had nothing to offer in return. I waited because that's what love does. It waits. It endures. It holds on even when holding on seems pointless. The world tells you to move on, to be practical, to accept loss and continue with life. But some loves can't be moved on from. Some bonds can't be severed by something as small as death. Don Miguel gave me 2 years of happiness, and I gave him 12 years of faithfulness. That seems like an unequal trade, but it wasn't, because those 12 years weren't wasted. They were the truest expression of who I was, of what our friendship meant, of the fact that love, real love, doesn't have an expiration date. People ask, did the dog understand his owner was dead? Yes and no. I didn't understand death the way humans do. I didn't have the concept of forever gone. But I understood absence. I understood the hole in the world where he used to be. And I understood that my love for him didn't depend on his presence. It existed independent of him. It was mine to give, whether he could receive it or not. That's the secret they don't tell you about love. It's not a transaction. It's not conditional. Real love doesn't stop when circumstances change. Real love waits. My name was Canelo. I was a street dog who became the dog of Don Miguel, who became a symbol of a city, who became a story told to children about the meaning of loyalty. But in my own heart, I was always just one thing. A friend. Keeping a promise. Holding space for someone who mattered. They said I was just a dog, but I knew something they didn't. Love never ends. It doesn't fade with time. It doesn't break with distance. It just waits, patient and faithful, until the doors finally open and you hear that voice again, calling you home. Subscribe if you believe some bonds are eternal.